Serious dark web users of Reddit, was there ever a point in your use that you felt you were genuinely in danger? What happened? I've used the dark web once or twice. Scariest thing was when my screen went black for a few moments and turned back on. Wasn't anything big, just my display cable fucking up, but it did give me the creeps. As for dark or disturbing shit, I've only found a list of random addresses. The dark web really has a lot of stigma associated with it. For the most part, it's just people curious about the dark web, or people trying to scam you or sell you drugs. You have to do a lot of looking to find the really fucked up stuff. You're more likely to find dark web type crap on Reddit or YouTube than the actual dark web. In college, some friends and I ordered a 100 sheet of acid, using Bitcoin, to our college PO boxes. We got pretty terrified when it didn't arrive when it should have. We thought it was found by USPS, our own mail service, or the DEA. We were paranoid. Turns out they just shipped it later than they said. We got our 100 tabs, but that was a very stressful week and a half for all of us. IDK if it was the dark web, but accidentally came across a website that was basically just Pornhub, but for gore. I saw a couple seconds of a man, with his hands already chopped off, getting his face peeled off by some sort of cartel, and noped the fuck out. I had to take a break from the internet for a couple of days. I own a fairly rare car that had a rare error code. I looked it up on Google, and there was only one other person on the car makers forum that had the same error. And this guy took months and months going back and forth between car shops and the forum thread to try to get the issue fixed. Everyone on the forum was pitching in to try to help him. So I kept going through this long forum thread to try to figure out if he ever fixed it. And suddenly there's no more replies from the guy. Everyone was scratching their heads for a while. We thought he had maybe gotten the issue fixed and didn't bother to update us on it. Then one day, a news article popped up about a really rich guy who died in a Thai jail cell. And then we connected the two stories and they matched up. The same make and model of the car in the news article matched up with his car. And they were both claiming to be in Thailand at the time. So what happened was that same guy, who was still talking on the forums, got raided by the Thai police around the same time he stopped replying to the forum. Turns out that he was running one of the biggest dark web marketplaces where drugs were being sold and exchanged. It had something like $1 million in revenue per day, and he was hiding out in Thailand while living in luxury. They found him dead in his jail cell a few days later. They claim he died of. I was a casual orderer of the dark web for a while and got pretty big into it and started buying slightly bulky packages of drugs. If you knew the markets for a while, then you would know one called Alphabay was the best of the best. The Amazon of drugs and fraud would be its best description. However, it went down mysteriously one day, and everyone assumed the owners just scammed everyone for their Bitcoin. Partially true, but in the background it was actually seized the DEA. Everyone flocked to a new site called Hansa, which had some sketchy design features, but it was the next best alternative. Turns out the Dutch police took over the site, and with cooperation of multiple governments, ran a drug distribution onion site, with over $1 million of transactions for around a month. They were gathering information from unsuspecting users, including me, who bought with faulty security practices. Now this is where I started freaking out. Imagine trafficking drugs through the mail, and the Attorney General at the time, Jeff Sessions, makes a speech live on television that he was going to crack down, and explicitly explains how fucked everyone on Hansa was because they have been gathering data for over a month. And in a big dick energy move closes the site, and puts up a banner in its place saying everyone who has purchased will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law during his live speech. I was shitting myself for a month as many arrests did occur, but luckily I guess I wasn't important enough, and nothing happened to me. There's hitmen, human trafficking and snuff films and such, but a vast majority of these sites are scams asking you to send them Bitcoin. A small portion of users on the dark web would be there for this sort of stuff. However, buying drugs online is quite popular and widespread. Single vendors can have $500,000 plus in lifetime sales. You use PGP to encrypt your address, so only the seller of the drugs has access to your private info. If your package is seized, LE have no proof you ordered it unless they seize your computer, and you have that information stored on it. you can use Tails a USB to avoid this. Even if your packages get seized, you'll often get a love letter saying what they seized and there is no follow-up after that. I actually learned how to access the dark web by listening to NPR. They had a segment where an author, who was writing a book about it, basically gave step-by-step instructions on how to do it. I did everything he said, and by golly, it worked. Truthfully, it was pretty underwhelming. Mostly just drugs and counterfeit items, passports, money, etc. I did find some weapons with the serial numbers scratched off, pistols and shotguns, but nothing that would start World War III. I also saw a couple ads for hitmen, but they seemed pretty hokey and were most likely undercover cops. I never felt in danger, but I have never gone back because there's nothing I really want from there. No government agents have kicked down my door, either. The scariest moment for me was when I stumbled upon a creepy ARG and thought it was something much more sinister, until I found out it was just an ARG. The dark web isn't really that scary. It has been romanticized and exaggerated by creepypastas, TV shows and etc. Edit. I know stuff like the Red Room and CP exist on the dark web. It's just that it is not that common, most are scams or require a membership. The common user won't find much, but you will find something really off-putting if you dig enough. Not dark web, but I used to work for a disabled guy. He'd been pretty badly disabled for 20 years and spent most of his time gaming and watching films. He was there early on when torrenting or file sharing started. He even said that he'd top some lists of most prolific downloaders worldwide in the early days. Could be bragging, I don't know. He told me he'd only ever had any issues once. He downloaded a film for his kids, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. He was in the habit of checking every film before he let his kids watch, but didn't this time. Just hit play. He looked up at the screen after a minute or so to see a Snow White-themed child porn video playing, 1 woman, 7 kids, etc. He didn't go into details or say how much his kids saw. Just that he freaked out, exited the file and then went to the bathroom to throw up. You don't just stumble onto the scary parts of the dark web. You had to have been looking for something sinister if you happened to come across one of the sites. Even then, getting access to said sites isn't as easy as most of them are invite-based. Most of it is just the normal internet with questionable forums, think 4chan, but slightly worse / and petty drugs. It's very hard to reach the criminal parts of the dark web unless you have very specific URLs, and even then the host has the option to deny you access. However, once you're in, it can become a slippery slope. You don't just stumble onto the scary parts of the dark web, you had to have been looking for something sinister if you happened to come across one of the sites. Even then, getting access to said sites isn't as easy as most of them are invite-based. Most of it is just the normal internet with questionable forums, think 4chan, but slightly worse / and petty drugs. It's very hard to reach the criminal parts of the dark web unless you have very specific URLs, and even then the host has the option to deny you access. However, once you're in, it can become a slippery slope. Not really a dark web user, but I got doxxed by a neo-Nazi group on the dark web, and ended up having to use the dark web to find the websites that had my information. Department of Homeland Security and the FBI showed up on my doorstep, because they were threatening to send me letter bombs and send people to abduct and ILL me. It was scary shit. They all fell off the face of the earth recently, so I'm just hoping the feds got to them. Edit. I elaborated more in the comments. Feel free to ask questions, but I might not give too much more information out. I don't want to be identified by anyone who's come across my docs or is associated with the group who did this in the first place. Edit. Holy shit, thanks for 4.8k upvotes. Never gotten that many before, Amal. I hope everyone who saw this took this as a reminder to not fuck with people and mind yourself online. Scary world out there, man, scary shit. Religious Silk Road and CMC user here. I used to get the stuff delivered to my dorm, but the package didn't come directly to my room. I had to go pick it up from my dorm's building office. For my 3rd or 4th order from Silk Road, I got an email saying that a package had arrived for me, but when I went to pick it up I was told by a RA that my package was in the door's office. I got freaked out. I also for some reason was getting a lot of spam calls, which just added to my anxiety. I was scared shitless. I didn't go to pick it up for like 4 days, meanwhile kept getting emails from the door's office to come to get my package. I didn't go because I thought that it was a setup. But after a couple of days, I said fuck it and went to pick up my package. I had paid a lot of BTC for that order and wanted to consume what I had ordered. When one got there, I realized that I was freaking out for no reason. The people holding onto my order couldn't have been nicer. They couldn't give me a reason why that package was delivered there and not to my dorm. So I just kept ordering more LOL. Edit, the package was always delivered by USPS Priority, which is run by the federal government, and I went to a state university. So technically the federal government transported funny stuff to the state government for me. No. The dark web is actually not very exciting and it's very hard to use. The only danger you are in is getting a visit from the law after trying to buy drugs online. Edit. The deep web is non-index sites. The dark web refers to non-index sites that often require Tor and often offer illegal content. The dark web is not exciting for one, because most of what a normal person would be able to find are honeypots run by law enforcement. To access the deep dark web you need an address, no Google searching, and most addresses you can find on the ClearNet are going to be compromised. If you're smart enough with this, you will probably be able to find a place that will let you buy drugs online and actually get the drugs if they aren't found by the mail service. Any hitman or contract killer services you can find are certainly honeypots. You will not find some sort of snuff porn site or 133T hacker enclave where they will trace your IP, etc. The ideas people have of the dark web are usually that last bit, which just isn't something you're going to find. And you can find videos of people dying on the clear net. You don't need the dark web for that. I once got hit with a really poorly made computer virus. It was based on TeamViewer by the looks of it. I got the virus from a download link, but I can't remember what I was trying to download, probably some kind of audio editing program if memory serves. As soon as the download was done, the virus activated, and it looked like something from an old version of TeamViewer. The mouse started moving on its own, so my immediate reaction was to disconnect my internet cable. I then shut the virus down from Task Manager and converted the file to a text file. Despite having no experience with programming at the time, even I could tell that it was made by a complete beginner. Most of the thing was blocks of code copy-pasted into it randomly and connected by a few lines of code, and copious use of goto was an absolute mess. It did get me interested in programming though, so I think the experience was a net positive. So, I'm 56 years old and have never stumbled into the dark web, thank God. I just spent more time than I should have reading about the ghastly videos that apparently thousands of you have seen, mostly by accident, and mostly when you were young children. Every single one of you noted how damaging the images and sounds were to you, and for many of you, that damage lingered. I'm especially saddened to read about those of you who were sweet innocents, just trying to have fun, who were ambushed by this unimaginable horror. Who knows how it changed you? I'm very grateful that the internet didn't exist when I was a child, not that the videos described are any easier to process as an adult, but still, and I'm sitting here, wondering how much of the anxiety disorders, depression, and lack of resilience and compassion that I see in our society is linked to what I'm reading here. It's really frightening to ponder, especially as this Reddit question, with over 7,000 comments, is only the tiniest tip of the iceberg. Those of you with young children, as a former college prof and a parent myself, here's my unsolicited advice: know your children. Closely watch their emotional development and behavior. Create open, non-judgmental, safe relationships where they feel secure in the knowledge they can come talk to you about anything. Because in our world today, there's no real way to prevent them from seeing horrible images and video before they are able to process it. Be safe out there. I heard about all the dark web stuff when I was about 12-13, so I decided to look around, thinking it wouldn't be that bad. There were a few odd moments, chat boxes popping up, but can't remember what they said to me. Found plenty of sites selling stolen tech for cheap, counterfeit money, Silk Road alternatives, etc. I can't remember what the site was called, but I think it may have mentioned something about dead bodies. I've always had a strong sense of morbid curiosity, especially when I was young. So I clicked. At first, nothing was worse than things you might see on our 50/50. But then there were odd things like photos that weren't already publicly available. It was mentioned in the title, description, or comments, but I can't remember which. Obviously quite unsettling that these may have been genuine murderers for serial killers. Anyway, I suddenly scrolled onto what I still refer to as the worst thing I have ever seen. It was a completely skinned human, but they still had their eyes and teeth. They were skinned down to their muscles and tied up. Immediately closed my browser. I was 13 and up until then had never felt such a sudden sense of sadness, panic, and fear. It's been 7 years and I can still vividly see the image in my head, although I try not think about it. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more videos like this one.